We're back with the X1 finally. When I bought this X1, I remember saying on a previous video that the next car that I wanted to buy had a level of mechanical damage difficulty. I clearly needed my head testing because this car's been a bit of a nightmare. Now I'm going to have to make a promise in this video that this car will be finished by the end of it. I know it's going to be a long video and there's a hell of a lot to do. If you live in England, you'll know exactly why this video has taken so long, because it's been January and February and I've been trying to work on it for nearly 2 months. Obviously every time I take a little bit of time off work to try and do some work on this car, it's bad weather. We've had snow, all the rain, just loads and loads of cold mornings, just temperatures in situations where you just don't want to be outside. But finally the weather seems to be a bit better, so we're going to try to get this car finished today. I have been working on it, but like I say, because of the weather, just very slowly. In the last couple of videos I've had some really good suggestions off a load of people watching the videos saying where to look for the oil in the EGR. Some people saying just take it out at night, burn the oil off out of the exhaust. All brilliant suggestions, but at the end of the day it's not going to make a video, is it? So I'm going to take it to bits and see exactly where this oil is, where it's coming from, if it's still leaking somewhere, and just basically have a look, see what's happening. Thanks for everyone's suggestions, and we are going to go about this the hard way, but it's in the interest of making a video, I suppose, and I just want to know exactly what happens when a turbo goes, where the oil ends up and why it smokes so bad. So yeah, we're just going to pull it apart and have a look. I wanted to show a few of you the different methods I use for painting cars, some of the bodywork tips and tricks that I use. Again, 1 step forwards, 3 steps backwards with this, because a few mistakes were made. But this is going to be quite a long video, but we will get this car done in this video, so here we go. Right then, so while we dismantle this again, just reminds you, when this car was bought with a faulty rod bearing, which got fixed quite quickly. As soon as we got it back together, we realised that the turbo was absolutely knackered. It was leaking oil all over the place. So last time we actually fitted a new cartridge in the turbo. That was the last video that we did. We took it out and it was still smoking like crazy. Now apparently that's absolutely fine. All cars that have suffered a turbo failure like this will do that. But I don't just want to take it out and hoon the car around and let the oil burn. I want to take it apart and see where the oil actually is, where it sits, and clean it out manually if I can. So basically this process is just taking apart any covers. Obviously we need to get to the turbo to get the V-band off the turbo underneath these heat shields here, the car's ECU, the battery, all that, just to gain a lot more access really. The more you can remove to get to something like this, because the DPF is a big unit, as you can see here. So we're taking all the sensors off. Right, we've got pretty much everything we can out from the top. You've seen me do this a couple of times now, strip all the top of this engine down to get near the turbo and the DPF. Now the DPF and the catalytic converter are basically, it's just a system that helps with exhaust gas emissions, and it bolts directly onto the turbo, and it's quite a big unit, to be honest. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to get this out, but either way I'm going to be able to separate it from the turbo and see how much oil's in there, see if I can get it cleaned out, see if it's run right through into the exhaust, all the waste oil, and with a bit of luck that should expose the EGR valve and some other bits that need checking, just to see if that's full of oil as well. So now it's as apart as I can get it from up top. I'm going to go underneath. Obviously I can't really film under there, so I'll just go take it apart. I might show you a couple of pictures of what I'm taking apart again, but we'll get that done and then come back and have a look, see what we can see. There we are underneath. Basically under here we've got, this is the bottom of the DPF, and there's 4 mounting bolts. I think they're all 13mm bolts. Then up the top there's a exhaust temp sensor. Just here we've got an oxygen sensor mounted after the DPF in the exhaust. Then this needs disconnecting. There's 2 exhaust hangers and obviously an exhaust clamp which links this section to the rear section of the exhaust, which has been pre-sprayed with WD-40. That's not oil dripping because it's quite rusty. Now now this is off it's separated from the rest of the exhaust. You can see just how much oil is inside there, which means that the oil has run all the way down this section, all the way to the back of the car, which I already know because it was dripping with oil. But it's good to see just how much is in the exhaust system itself, which has to be cleaned out really. So here's the DPF off. This is as far away as I can get it from down here. Right, we've got the DPF free from the turbo, but it doesn't look like it's going to come out very easily without actually taking off the EGR valve, because there's a bracket that goes underneath the EGR valve, and it's just completely stopping this DPF, this big unit, coming out. The EGR valve's job basically is to recycle some of the exhaust gas back into the intake system of an engine. It's called an exhaust gas recirculation valve. Now that's one thing that a lot of people said to check, so what I'm going to do is take the valve out of the EGR valve essentially, see if there's any oil in there. If there is, then I'll take the full unit off, and that probably will give me access to the DPF itself. But if it's clean, then I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have to think of a different way to try and clean this DPF out. So we'll take that off now and have a quick look at it. So this is the top of the EGR valve, the actual valve itself that I've taken off. Really easy thing to do, just 2 Allen keys and it pops the actual valve itself off. Now when you shine a torch down here inside the EGR chamber itself, there's no oil whatsoever. Obviously there's a little bit of carbon build-up, but that's because it deals with exhaust gases. That's going to happen, but it looks quite good. Now the bracket there on the right is what's stopping that big DPF coming out, and the only way to get that off is to take the full assembly off here to the left, the actual full EGR system, which I'm not going to do because it's got engine coolant in it and I don't want to have to drop that and replace that. Now, even though we can't get the full DPF off, basically I've created enough room to be able to see inside the turbo, and the new turbo, quite clearly, this is the old turbo, that's what it shouldn't look like. That's what it looked like before we changed the cartridge. The oil seals had gone in it, it was just leaking oil all the way down the exhaust, which is absolutely no good. This is the new turbo, that's bone dry, so that's a massive bonus. It means the turbo repairs worked essentially. The oil seals are holding, but it's just sent oil all the way down into this system. So that now is what we're going to have to try and clean out. Right, I've got the top off the EGR valve and looked inside it, and it looks very clean, it looks spot on, so I'm not going to be taking that off today because it has a cooler, the EGR valve, and it basically has coolant running through it from the engine's cooling system, and the last thing I want to do, if I can help it, is to have to take all the coolant out of it. So I'm going to leave the EGR alone because I know that there's no oil in there, which is a very good thing, but it also means that I can't get a bracket off to get the DPF out. But I think I've come up with a plan to clean the DPF, which I'll show you in a minute. Like I say, there's the oil that's come out when the turbo went, it's only gone down the exhaust itself, it hasn't gone anywhere else, which is really good. I've had one of the intercooler pipes off, it doesn't seem like there's excess oil in there. It's just all gone straight down the DPF, ran right through the exhaust system. It were actually dripping oil out the exhaust right at the back of the car. So I'll show you that now, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to try clean it all out. Right, because of the amount of oil that has gone down this exhaust, it's really obvious that the oil's gone through the DPF. It's gone through the full exhaust system, out through the muffler, and actually started dripping out the back box of the exhaust when the turbo went. So what I'm going to do, and I don't know who suggested this, but thanks for suggesting this, is reconnect the exhaust to the DPF underneath, leave it disconnected from the turbo up top, and then basically pour down the DPF cleaner through the top of the DPF through one of the ports for like the lambda sensors, using a funnel, and just let it run right through the exhaust. Now it's not an ideal thing to do, but the fact that oil's run all the way through that system anyway, it's going to have to clean something out, isn't it? So I'm going to give that a go. I'll just start with a little bit, and see what comes out, and if it starts to really look like it's cleaning the system, then we'll go for it and use the full 5 litres, and then obviously a bit of clean water down there afterwards just to wash it out. Then more than likely I won't have time to put it back together, but I'll leave it all open for a few days, maybe a week, and let it all sort of dry itself out naturally and see what else comes out of it before I rebuild it. Right, we can see down here that basically I've put the full 5 litres down now, and I've started to rinse it out, so pretty much everything that I've put down there is coming out, which is a good thing. Obviously not quite as much because there's still a bit of water inside there, but the what's coming out of it speaks for itself really. It's absolutely full of oil. It were it were bad in there, so this might not have cleaned it all out, but it will have cleaned quite a lot of it out. So we'll let it dry for a while now, maybe a week, and then rebuild it, see if it stops it smoking. Right, it's been sat for a while. It has actually been more than a week because of the absolutely crap weather in this country, but we've got a bit of sun today, so I'm going to put it back together. I'll just show you briefly how I put it back together, because obviously you've seen this come apart and go back together so many times now. Put it all back together, start it up, see what happens. I imagine there's going to be a fair bit of steam still, a bit of water it'll push out, especially when you rev it a little bit. But we'll get that done and just see where we get to with it. So first things, the exhaust temp sensor, oxygen sensor on top of the DPF, heat shields for the turbo, then the car's ECU with all its designated wiring, then obviously all the boxing, the battery, all the plastic cowls, intake pipes, then all the shrouds for the windscreen. That's it. Right, I've had a few bits arrive, and these are just simple little bits really to make the interior a bit better. We've got in the back of the car in the middle, it looks like kids have kicked it a bit, so that's going to get replaced. Got a brand new parcel shelf and some new floor mats. So hopefully these will just tidy up the back of the car, well, the whole car inside really. Because the carpets, although I've cleaned them, they're a little bit scabby still, so this will just kind of cover that up. This is a prime example of not using your brain. I must have messed about with this for quite a few minutes trying to pull it out through this hole. Tried pliers, tried prizing tools, tried different angles, tried everything before just actually engaging some brain and thinking just pull off the plastic front of this unit and then the whole thing will just come out, which, there you go, that easy. And just a case of popping it back in the right way up, obviously, pushing the clips back. That's it, easy as that, job done. Simple little things like this, just go on eBay, 15 quid, all fixed. Now the parcel shelf on the other hand was a bit more expensive. I think this were about 80 quid, but it is brand new. I don't think it's a genuine one, but it fits all the same. It fits spot on. It just feels really lightweight. I don't think it is genuine, but it is brand new, so, and it fits. That's the main thing. Sometimes with these spurious parts, they just don't fit properly. They look like they're going to go in, but they sort of dangle about and rattle, but this actually seems to fit really well. It's like a 2-part parcel shelf in these for some reason. I don't know, maybe so you can take half of it out if you've got dogs in the boot or something like that, but simple little thing, just makes the car look better. Right, bodywork day. We've actually got a half decent day for a change, so I'm going to strip this front end down. It's got, on the passenger side corner of the front bumper, it's had a little knock, clearly. It's kind of, the plastic's bent. I do think it's been attempted to, well, I know it's been attempted to be repaired before, because the paint job's shocking, the paint colour doesn't match, and the whole shape of the repair's just wrong. So we'll get all that apart, bring it in, see what we can do. With them being plastic bumpers, you can generally use a load of heat with them, get them something like straight. I'll be probably doing a bit of plastic welding to strengthen it up, using kind of heating up some staples, melting the staples into it to reinforce the plastic. But the first thing to do is obviously to get it off. I need to paint the front driver's wing and the front bumper passenger side, so I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of blending today. I have got cans. Now this is probably going to come back and bite me in the arse a little bit because it's a pearl paint and it's notoriously difficult to do, but normally I generally get quite a good finish out of using tins for the base colours and then using the spray guns, the proper spray guns for the clear coats to get it all nice and shiny properly. So with this being a 3-stage pearl, I've bought some proper paints from a paint shop, but like I say, they are in aerosol form, so they might we're just gonna have to try it basically. So yeah, we'll get the front end taken apart first, because I know the headlight don't fit properly. The headlight's another thing. Once it's off, I need to put a new lens in that. I've got the new lens and I'm not looking forward to doing that, but it's going to be a lot cheaper than buying a brand new headlight or a second hand headlight and then possibly having to code it into the car, all that nonsense. So yeah, we'll get on that, get it all apart and see what's happening with it. Now the arch liners I've taken out off camera because that's just a bit of a boring part. It's just a load of 8mm screws and clips and things like that, which is difficult to film, but the wings and the bumper are actually relatively easy to take off these cars. Some things on BMWs are a nightmare to work on, some things are really easy, and it turns out the front bumper and the front wings are actually quite easy, along with the headlight. But obviously this headlight, it's got a missing bolt, which means obviously someone's had it out before. Maybe when it got knocked, someone took it out to try and straighten it up, I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll find out. The wing, just a load of 10mm bolts, and then the soundproofing under the arch. Now the top bolt was a little bit tricky, in fact a little bit tricky to find, to be fair, because I just didn't expect there to be one more bolt. It's kind of underneath the plastics that shroud the windscreen, and it's quite difficult to get a socket on it because it's right next to the glass, so that's just one of the ones that you have to be a little bit careful with. But off we go. There we have it. Now this is the little bit of damage to the wing. It's really quite small, but it's so in your face where it was. It's going to have to be fixed. Now on a few of my other videos, a lot of people have asked for me to go into a little bit more detail about our paint, so I'm going to do that with this one. So basically what I've done here first is just rough up the entire panel with some 600 grade sandpaper, just to make sure there's no high spots, and naturally so it's got a good key for the filler. Then apply a little bit of filler. Obviously the filler takes a little bit of time to dry, not long though, probably 15 minutes, something like that. And then the only way to sand filler properly is to use a block. Now these Jura blocks are absolutely brilliant because they bend slightly and conform to the shape that you're trying to create essentially, so you can get the repair really nice just by using the block alone. So at this point, once I'm happy with what the block's done, it's 90% there. Give it a little clean with some panel wipe, and the next thing, just apply a little bit of heat to the panel to, one, dry it off, make sure there's no moisture on it, and two, it just helps the next layers dry. And the next layer that I'm doing now is a U-Pol high build primer. It's like a primer filler, so this is going to need, I think I went 3 coats with this one, just 3 thin coats, applying a bit of heat each time. Don't go too quick with this, because if you apply the primer too fast it ends up splitting and reacting. So just give all that a bit of time. I think I left it a couple of hours to set and then got the block back out, but with some much smoother sandpaper just to refine that shape. And once you're absolutely happy with how it feels, the next thing to do is rough up the entire panel again, get rid of any overspray. I've done this with an 800 grit wet and dry, and then go around all the edges just with a scotch pad, and this allows the next layers to stick to the panel properly. If you don't do this it will peel, so you just have to make sure you rough everything up nicely. Now with this wing, because the repair area is so small, I'm just doing a little bit of a blend. So with this paint, first of all you get base colour, which is just basically white, so I'm just literally just applying the white to cover up the filler areas, and then applying a couple of really thin spread out layers of the pearl effect. Now doing a blend like this is actually, it's quite, I say easy, it's not easy, but it's easy to see where you've been, especially when you can take it outside like this and just loosely put it back on the car and just check that the colour looks about right, which it does. I'm quite happy with it. So next it's time to move on to the bumper, the bumper repair that's been done quite badly. Obviously first things first, remove any filler or anything like that that's been put on before, because I'm going to be reshaping this. As you can see from this angle, that bumper's not straight. So the first thing is just to apply a load of heat, because these are plastic bumpers, and really once you get them very hot, I mean you can see there straight away, just with a little bit of heat and a little bit of pressing, how much straighter that is already. Just bringing the light out just to line it up, just to see if I'm anywhere close yet, which yeah, it's getting there, just a little bit further to go. Now these plastic repair kits are absolutely brilliant. They basically heat up a kind of a funny shaped staple. You get all different sizes and thicknesses depending on the repair that you're trying to achieve, and it just basically melts it into the plastic. It's absolutely brilliant. It gives it real strength. Obviously then you need to fill over it, but this is kind of the start. Obviously this bumper's been repaired before and it's got quite a crack in it, so this is going to really reinforce that crack and stop it cracking again. So you need to melt these quite deep into the plastic to get it to work properly. And just going a bit crazy with the grinder. We want it to be quite deep and quite rough, because obviously this is getting a fillered section, and the rougher it is the better the filler's going to stick to it. Obviously you can rebuild any shape we want with a filler, so over a couple of coats. So this is just the first coat going on, just to actually build the shape back to where we want it. And we're back at it again with a block. Again, I just can't stress how important it is to use a block to get this, because it's so tempting just to find a little low spot of filler and just try do it with your hand. But the only reason the block won't take out a bit of filler that isn't smooth is if it's too low. So if you just sand that piece, you're going to end up with a low spot. So the only thing you can do is just apply a little bit more filler. So this is coat number 2, just to refine that shape. And again, only using the block, and then you're guaranteeing that your shape's right. And obviously the way you want to use this block is just use the block, come at it from every angle, every direction, every shape you can think of, following the contours of the bodyline itself, and eventually you'll get the shape you want. Especially when you combine it like I'm doing with the high build primer filler. The combination of these two things really make it possible to get your shape perfect, especially since everything's slightly different colours. It kind of gives you a visual of where your repair needs to be a little bit better, or if you've gone a little bit higher or a little bit low. So it's just a case of taking time. Never think that you're going to get it in the first attempt, the first load of filler that you mix. You're always going to need a couple of mixes, a couple of fills. Yeah, just take your time with it. This is basically just finding all the other imperfections, obviously, because I'm spraying pretty much half of this bumper. There were little bit more damage, a few really big stone chips that I just wanted to get out. I'm not going to get every single one of them out because it won't match the other side, but obviously the more you can get out, the better it's going to be. And I did go to town a little bit in the end with this, and it did end up looking like half of the bumper were virtually brand new once I'd got it all prepped. So now I'm happy with the filler on this section. It's a case of using the high build primer again, the primer filler, getting a nice good few coats on. I think I went for about 4 coats this time on the bumper, because it did need quite a sand down again afterwards just to really refine that surface. After 24 hours, this is me coming back at it with an 800 grade wet and dry just to get that surface absolutely perfect. Now when you're refining to this level, you really need to look at it closely, and you can actually feel when it's ready to paint. You can feel when it's not. You can feel when it's really smooth. Obviously the smoother here you can get it, the better, within reason. I mean, I wouldn't go any smoother than 800 grade because you need a little bit of scratch for your paint to stick to. So I find that this is how it is now. That's perfect. 800 grade, fully prepped. And that's where I'm going to be performing the blend, just to try and mix the two colours into each other so I don't have to paint the entire bumper. Now we're on to paint once we're finally happy. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a 3-stage pearl, so first of all, the colour, the undercoat colour, like the base colour, it's just simply white. Obviously it's the right colour for BMW's white, but it's just essentially a white background colour that you're performing here. So as long as you get this quite level and quite smooth, you're fine. Like, as I say, this is just white, so it's going to take 3 or 4 coats just to get that background colour, the base colour, to the right kind of consistency on the panel, and then that's going to be left to dry for maybe, well, it's up to you. You can leave it as long as you want, but I left it about 20 minutes, something like that, just to cure properly before starting the second stage. And this now is the second stage. This is a pearl effect. You can actually see it on the camera. Now this has to be sprayed very evenly, and how I'm doing it, I'm aiming for kind of a 75% overlap on each pass with the spray, and that's generally what's accepted for most painters. They kind of say 75% overlap's about right, and that gives you a nice even coat. Now this only needs 2 coats, and it needs 2 quite light coats, because actually the pearl on these BMWs, it's not a real in-your-face pearl, it's quite a subtle pearl, so I'm only going to go sort of, it's almost like a 3/4 coverage, so maybe 2 of those is like, you could almost call it a 1.5 coat paint. So just giving these 5 minutes apart, that's what I'm going to do. 2 coats of pearl, and then we'll see what it looks like. So next up, it's time to mix some clear coat. Now I use a U-Pol 2-pack clear coat, and you can see here it's got an extra fast hardener, and then I put a couple of drops of a solution called anti-fisheye, and this just helps stop any reactions with the paint. So first up there, you've just seen me do just a quick wipe down and use a tack rag just to get any little bits of lint or anything like that off the surfaces before starting to apply the clear coat. Now the way to apply this clear coat is the first coat just goes on. It doesn't matter how it goes on. It's kind of it's not a heavy coat. You don't want to be looking for perfection here. You just want kind of a medium to light coverage, and then literally let this tack off slightly. And what this does is it allows the first coat to kind of act like a glue to hold on to the next full coat, and it's the next coat that you're really going for perfection. As you can see here, I've got a torch in my hand, trying to use the light to see exactly how I'm laying this coat down, just to get it just right, because if it's too thin it goes all orange peely, if it's too thick you end up with runs. So it's just something you have to get used to your own gun, you have to practice, and eventually you'll figure out exactly how to lay this down without it running, without it going all orange peely. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you get dust in the paint, sometimes it runs. It's just one of them things. You can always deal with it afterwards, but the harder you try in this step, the easier it's going to be in the long run. Now this brings us back to our blend. This is a U-Pol fade out solvent. Basically what this does is, as you're feathering in the clear coat to the old paint, this fade out solvent basically melts the two paints together and allows you to, basically if you try and just polish these two into each other, you'll end up seeing a line, but with the fade out solvent you can kind of melt the two clear coats together and get a much better finish. So this is the finished result. So we'll give this a bit of time to dry and then take it outside and just make sure we're happy with it. I don't think this is the right colour, it's looking too yellow. It hasn't blended very well. Well, the blend's not bad, it's just obviously when the colour's wrong, you can't blend it because you can just see the transition between the two colours. It didn't look too bad while it were in here, now it's been clear coated, it looks good, but it's not the right colour. I'll try to show you with the camera, but it might not pick it up, it's just too yellow. Now I've spoke to Marlowe paint suppliers who I get the paint off, and they kind of said, well, there's two shades, there's a lighter shade and there's like a slightly darker, more of a pearly yellow shade, which is clearly the one I had and not the one I needed. 50-50 chance, and obviously it's going to be the wrong one. So I've ordered the new paints, but this time I've got it in spray gun form, proper, you know, like the body shops do it, no messing about. Obviously the cans, they're alright for flat colours, but when it's a 3-stage pearl, nah, it needs to be done right. So until that comes, I'm going to tackle this headlight, and yeah, the job I've been dreading doing, but like I said before, it's going to be cheaper than buying a new headlight, so we'll try and get that done. Apparently you've got to cut them open and then use loads of heat and the glue together and this and that, and yeah, we'll just try. So here we go. Right, we've got it. The actual lens cover is off. Obviously, you've just seen that I've cut all the way around it, being very, very gentle. That's the easy bit though. The hard bit is to come. Right, somehow we've done it. All I can say is, with this job, just don't bother. It's an absolute nightmare. It's taken me hours and hours and hours, just simply because you've got the full headlight open and it needs protecting really carefully, and you're ragging it about, adding loads of heat. It's all glued together with like this. I was under the impression that it was like a sealant that never really dried and you could get it hot, but it's not. It's like a silicone. So heat does work, yeah, because it expands everything and makes it able to break, but yeah, getting this out, all I can say is, and in future for me, just go buy a second-hand headlight, because it's taken a day this, and I have put a little tiny nick in the headlight, you can barely see it. Yeah, it's done now, so lesson learned, but yeah, I won't be doing that again, no way. Right, we're all prepped again. I've sanded everything back down, obviously because it's all already been fixed and painted. There's not much really to do to it other than just to rough up the paint that I put on before that were the wrong colour. Rough up the clear coat. That's all done, and we've got all the paints. So compressor's fired up, ready to go. I've got the gun. So here we go. We're going to try this again. Try get this colour right. Try do a better blend. And fingers crossed it's going to be right. So here we go again, but this time armed with hopefully the correct colour. As I said before, it were a 50-50 chance really. I bought tins, I didn't know there were two shades of this colour. It was just one of those things, 50-50 chance, and I do remember saying this is probably going to come back and bite me in the arse a little bit, and it did exactly that. But lesson learned. I do obviously know there's different shades of different colours, but nowhere could I find there were two shades of this. And like I say, 50-50 chance I got it wrong. But this new colour, as you can see here, it looks so much better. The blend, you can barely see where I've blended it. So straight onto the clear coat, I think. Same process, small coat to start with, and then a full coat afterwards, being careful to lay it as cleanly as possible without runs and without going too thin so it orange peels. And yep, at the end I think it speaks for itself. The colour's very, very good. You can't really see where that's blended. So now the front end's painted the right colour finally. It's time to deal with something that I've been dreading really. The last time I had this car running, I noticed a tiny little drip of oil coming out of the bottom of it, which after looking, it turns out it's coming from where the dipstick goes back into the sump, which when I did put the sump back on, I thought this is just going to be kind of a hit and miss whether this seals or not, because there's a little rubber seal in there, and I think really what you should do is take the dipstick off, put the sump back on, and then re-put on the dipstick itself and make sure this rubber seal's right. But I didn't do that, and it's leaking slightly, so I'm going to try and get this out. It's not easy. I can't even see where it's bolted into the car, so I'm just going to have to get in there and see if we can get it out and see if we can cure this problem. Whether that rubber seal's not sat right or if it's split, or I don't know. So we'll just get it out and see. Nearly. Right, we've got it out. I've got no idea how I'm going to get it back in again, but we'll deal with that later. Now, on the end of this tube sits this, and it's split. So I'm going to have to try and source a new rubber seal, a new O-ring. I just hope I can get one without having to go to BMW, because it's the weekend now, and yeah. But, yeah, we'll go try and get a replacement. Right, I do believe it's time to build it back up now. Everything's painted, everything's dry. This dipstick problem hopefully is fixed. I've had it running for a while, so I don't know. It's not leaking at the moment, but on the road it might be a different story. All we can do is try that. It took hours and hours and hours to get this dipstick back in. It's not a job I'd advise doing. The O-ring I've put in is not from BMW, it's a spurious one, and it's as close as I could get, so we'll just have to see if that works. Hopefully it does, because I really don't want to have to go through that again. Let's get back to building it. Now the wingers we know from taking off, it's just, I think it's about 8 or 9 10mm bolts. That's it, it's just knowing where they are. Obviously there's a bit of alignment to do with these, but it's quite easy. Obviously with the door being on and the bonnet hasn't been moved, it's really quite easy to get the alignment. Now while they were putting the headlight back in, one thing I hadn't realised is one of the tabs had been glued together badly, so as soon as I started trying to refit the headlight, this broke off, which really annoyed me, because I always normally say don't try and repair these because they're not worth it, but obviously since I've put this lens back on this light, I'm definitely going to fix it, so a quick plastic repair, that's done. Right, one thing I've had to order from BMW is a indicator flasher for the wing mirror, because this one is, you see it there, it's cracked, it's a bit missing, and it doesn't work. It's showing up an error on the dashboard, so we'll try to get that off now and replace that. Like I say, I've gone for a genuine BMW one just so that I don't have to replace both of them. If you get spurious ones, I know they're cheaper, but to be fair, the one genuine one from BMW only cost about 45 quid, so I think it's just worth it, just getting a genuine one. Then you know it's going to work, you know it's not going to throw any fault codes up, and yeah, and then I only have to do one side. Bonus. Right, at the moment we're trying to put the rear, because this has got the electronic parking brake, and to be able to do the rear discs and pads you need to put it into an open mode, apparently. So I'm trying to do that now. It's come up with press F1 to activate installation process. Apparently it's audible, so I'll hear it when it's done. Yep, definitely heard that. Check to see if it's set properly. Both EMF actuators on the automatic hold brake are set to installation position. Repairs can be carried out. Then the installed position must be deactivated via this service function. Well, there we are. Right, so now we've got this set into workshop mode and everything's disengaged. I've got new discs and pads for the rear of it. We've done the fronts already in the last video, so we'll get on with that now and get some nice new shiny brakes at the back, because these ones are bad news. They're so rusty. It looks like the car's been left out for quite a while without some maintenance, so we'll get them done now. So first of all, with this job we need to undo the slider bolts. This is basically the bolts but with a long sleeve on them that allow the caliper to move in and out and kind of slide on them and lock and unlock the brakes. Once that's out, you can take the hydraulic portion of the caliper out. Next is taking the actual caliper bracket out. This is bolted directly to the hub. this has to come out to be able to get the disc out. You can't actually get the disc out without removing this, and these bolts were super tight. Or not just tight, but they were seized, really seized, so they took some serious effort. Next is an Allen key bolt just to knock the disc off. Then obviously we need to just use the caliper press tool to push the piston back in the caliper. There's a new disc going back on, the caliper bracket going back on. All these bolts have been re-greased, and when the pads go back in, they need a little bit of copper grease on them. This basically just allows them to slide and move about, and it actually helps stop them squeaking. Next goes back in the slider bolts, again re-greased, cleaned up and re-greased, and that's it. New brakes. Right, we've got more smoke. But from a different place. This ain't going to be easy. Basically, when the car starts, briefly it lets off a bit of smoke from under the bonnet, but then stops quite quickly. So I'm only getting about 30 seconds each start to try and figure out where it's coming from, and it's just not happening. So I'm going to have to think outside the box a little bit with this one, see if we can get to the bottom of it, because it's... After the Audi setting on fire, the S3 in one of the previous videos, I'm a little bit of a terrified wreck when it comes to smoke coming from places that it shouldn't be. So yeah, we're going to have a think about this, and yeah, come up with a way of figuring it out. Right, this is my genius plan to find where the smoke's coming from. Hoover on reverse, straight up the tailpipe, and I'm going to turn the hoover on. It should in theory pressurise the exhaust system, and then I'll go underneath with some soapy water and just spray on all the joints, all the connections, everywhere like that, and just look for bubbles. If I see some, then that's it. Absolute genius way of doing it. But yeah, I just cannot find this problem any other way, so here it goes. So this is what it was doing when you first started the engine. Like I say, you could only really detect the smoke for the first 30 seconds or so, and then once it started getting a little bit warm, it sort of almost stopped, or it was that faint you couldn't really tell where it was coming from. But this is the smoke that was coming out of it, and this method with the hoover did actually pay off. It worked immediately after getting underneath it. I'll show you now where it was coming from. I didn't really get any footage because I were under there with water and this and that, and there were all kinds of noise, but I sprayed soapy water onto the exhaust manifold pressure like a captive nut that allows air through up to a sensor, and this is where it was leaking. So just a little bit tighter on that bolt, and that's it. That cured that problem. So I think we're there finally. It's the car's booked in for MOT on Thursday, which is 2 days from now. It's been running a lot and there's no real smoke. There's a little bit of steam coming out of it, but it seems good. So I'm going to take it for a drive, make sure it's not blowing any more smoke. It's getting 4 new tyres on Thursday, an MOT, and then the next car arrives on Thursday as well. So really, touch wood or whatever, this works. I'm confident now with all the work it's had done. I can't find any oil, anything like that anywhere else, so I think we're good to go. Like I said before, thanks for all your suggestions, all your subscribers, brilliant, thank you very much. And if you aren't subscribed, please do, please hit that like, and I'll see you next week with the new car, which is, it's going to be a bit of fun. So it's a bit of a back step price wise, but it's a funny little car that I've got. So yeah, wait and see, and I'll see you next time. Cheers guys.